Doubles and coffee, here we go again. The PNM calling country name without evidence, without any information, just to give a false narrative. All of a sudden, on the oil spill, a media release unsigned by any minister or permanent secretary or anybody, just a media release on the letterhead of the Ministry of National Security starts to give us some little tidbits about the oil spill, but really no information whatsoever. But they state categorically that they found this unpowered vessel and the tugboat, and they give us a name. Well, hold on, we ain't so sure about the name of that specific tugboat because evidence is still being gathered and other people are investigating. But they tried to say that it was bound for Guyana, just so they call Guyana. Then they say they get pictures from Aruba. What does this remind you of? Does it remind you when the U.S. Coast Guard was in the sea, the Caribbean Sea, and there was a vessel that left Pointe-à-Pitre with some fuel under sanctions from the U.S. government, and the transponder was turned off, and then a reporter in Venezuela received information and the course that the vessel took, and Stuart Smallpin Young and Parrier, Newman George Parrier, put out a press release. Stuart Smallpin Young saying it was St. Eustatius, and they had a sanction clause that was put in 17 days after the contract was already consummated. Remember all that? They call St. Eustatius, they call Aruba, they call all kind of names. The Dutch government had to say, listen, we know nothing about that of which you speak. And then we found out that the vessel left Pointe-à-Pitre without documentation. Customs documents created 54 days after a vessel left. Parrier talking without signing a media release and an advertisement in the newspapers, and the vessel ended up in Palo Alto, Venezuela, and offloaded. Now we have a vessel that is spewing and spilling oil, the quantum of which we have no idea. Oil has now entered Grenada sovereign waters, and we have a Ministry of National Security headed by Fitzgerald, a Talbot, Pomsite, ride a horse with an 8-year-old boy and fall asleep standing up Hines, giving out a press release that says nothing but tries to throw us in a direction without facts, calling Guyana and Aruba name. But when you see the information, you see they have intelligent, honest people researching. There is a research site called Bellingcat, and they produced this article that I'm going to quote from you all, and it's under the heading, Identifying the Mystery Vessel at the Site of Trinidad and Tobago's National Emergency Oil Spill. On February 7, 2024, a mystery vessel began leaking oil and ran aground on a reef off the coast of Tobago. The resulting spill coated beaches, wildlife, and so on, right? Dive teams and an autonomous submersible have found the name for the vessel, the Gulf Stream. Very important, because this Gulf Stream has no engine, has no registration. It's just a floating barge that needs something to pull it. Why do you do that? It's been in operation over 50 years. Who is using this? Why are they using it? It's very surreptitious. It reeks of skullduggery. But that's how they're going to identify it, because with a vessel without an engine, you have to have things to tie it up, connect it, keep it floating straight, upright, make sure it don't list and so on. So they continue, the Bellingcat. These pigeonholes, that's what they're talking about. They identify the Gulf Stream by its shape, very scientific satellite imagery, underwater. They use all sorts of sources. But they're pigeonholes that you connect the vessel to the tugboat with to pull it straight and to keep it going, right? These pigeonholes are an unusual feature, right? Because they're typically not present on self-powered ships. But according to the site, the Marlin, so this site says that that specific Gulf Stream has been married to a tugboat called the Marlin. Ministry of National Security, without signing, say the Coast Guard say that they find a tugboat called the Creed, right? We don't know whether it's rocky or real. According to the site, the Marlin was married to a 449-foot, 60,000 barrel double-hulled barge, the Gulf Stream. And they continue. Marlin was sold in 2012 and purchased by San Martin Group Limited, a Panamanian company. In 2014, AIS data shows that the vessel began regularly visiting petroleum ports in Venezuela. Equasis records only show the sail of the Marlin because the unpowered barges are not registered in the same way as mentioned earlier. However, after the sail date, the vessels were also captured by imagery, so they're still married, even though you don't have to say what it's pulling, to a barge Gulfstream, as the image from a petroleum port in Maracaibo, Venezuela on March 8, 2015. Bellingcat followed the Marlin Gulfstream using AIS data and satellite imagery until October 17, 2020, when it transmitted its last AIS position at the Astenave shipyard. Take a guess where? In Amway, Venezuela. Satellite imagery shows that the barge remained at Astenave for some time. That's in Venezuela. On February 18, 2021, Astenave posted an image on Instagram showing the tug Marlin and the stern of the Gulfstream, the one that overturned and killing all of our waters, our reefs and everything, positioning of the vessel under coupling mode. On March 23, 2021, the owners of the Marlin Gulfstream San Martin Group Limited sold the vessels to another Panamanian company, Star Goods Petroleum SA, which was registered in 2014. For over a year, the vessel remained at the Astenave port in Venezuela. You all are calling people named Guyana, Aruba. How come you didn't call Venezuela? The shipyard, according to Planet Labs, PBC, and Google Earth, it was last seen in Planet Imagery on February 22nd, 2022, where it is shown floating just offshore from the dry dock in Astenave, Venezuela. For over a year, right, there are reasons why a vessel would not transmit AIS signals. One common reason is to obscure the origin and destination of the cargo. So surreptitious activity involving hundreds of thousands of tons of oil. Right? Ships in this so-called ghost fleets are sometimes used to transport sanctioned oil from Iran and Venezuela. In 2022, the Financial Times reported that a number of ships that have gone dark to operate in ghost fleets has tripled since 2019. Operating under the radar, these vessels are frequently poorly maintained. Reuters, now look at information, not no Fitzgerald Hines Pomsite unsigned media release with speculation and calling country name. Reuters reported last year, 2023, that more than half of Venezuela's state-owned fleet of oil tankers are so run down that they should be immediately repaired or taken out of service. Reuters also reported the typical lifespan of a tanker is 30 years. As of 2014, the Marlin and the Gulfstream have been in service for 50 years and 48 years respectively. The Gulfstream barge has a unique shape, and then they show you how they know that that's the Gulfstream. They show you all the pictures. They go into great detail. Star Goods Petroleum SA does not have an online presence, and its Panamanian registration documents contain no contact information. Remember, we all have a Cobostana ocean stem with a company that they couldn't find the office, Bridgman's, and Mark Bassan, before he went and take big salary to keep quiet and talk about football, went and was looking for Bridgman's. Doesn't this all sound very, very familiar? Is it coincidence that this is the same PNM, the same Keith Rowley government? So they have no registration documents, they contain no contact information. Bellingcat was able to locate the LinkedIn page of the company's executive vice president. He did not immediately reply to a request for comment. Rowley, Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines, Stuart Smallpin Young, Newman George, y'all already went through with the fuel sale from the Manolatis to the Aldan during COVID, during sanctions. There was Delcy Gate when Delcy landed here exactly at the same time that vessel was in Pointe-à-Pitre. It came from Europe, marked as Shell, changed to Trafigura. Then the PDVSA officials came and met with Rowley face to face during COVID. They lied that it was about hampers for Venezuelan migrants. And we saw when I asked Franklin Khan later on how much in the month of April 2020 fuel came in that same system, which we saw took it to Venezuela and offloaded it in Venezuela. Trafigura to ES Euro shipping, which is Wilmer Ruperti Maduro to Wilmer Ruperti Maduro. Franklin Khan had said 1.2 million barrels of fuel just for April 2020. Then we saw divers dying in a pipe, decommissioned. Why they were recommissioning that pipe? To do what? And the divers were left there to die. Inexplicable treatment, inexplicable decisions to leave them under there to die. And now we see in Tobago destroying our environment and going to damage even Grenada. A vessel that how it reached, where it reached, why the Coast Guard didn't know, why it's moving on without power, why it's unregistered, old vessel, overturned, where the crew, where the tugboat, whose oil it is, where's the oil, what's the forensics on the oil to tell us where that oil came from. This all happening under the same PNM, the same Rowley, the same Small Pin, the same Fitzgerald at Talbot Hines. All you find it makes sense, or you find it's coincidence. Bless.